The objective was to eliminate Jeff Ryan, commandeer his truck, and then execute every last soldier. That's what the evidence revealed. But Jason's presence was an unforeseen complication. This is the moment a 20-year-old Thane Ormsby strolls into a Dover, New Hampshire police station, convinced he had just committed the perfect murder. Only a few days before that, a gruesome discovery was made in rural Maine, where 3 individuals were savagely stabbed to death. 55-year-old Jeffrey Ryan, his 10-year-old son Jesse, and a family friend, Jason Dehahn. Even the most seasoned detectives were horrified by what they found at the scene. Every victim was dispatched with chilling military-style precision, a unique pattern of puncture twist and withdrawal. 10-year-old Jesse was discovered cowering behind his bedroom door, having been knifed again and again in the back. Jason's throat was cut so deeply that he was almost beheaded. But the truth investigators uncovered about their prime suspect was far more unsettling. Thane Ormsby's motive wasn't rage, retribution, or riches. He murdered simply to see if he was good enough at it. So what's next? You make your way up the stairs inside the home, and by then, I'm in the zone. I'm terrified, but I've got to see this through to the end, you know? The way I saw it, this was just an assignment. It felt like I was carrying out a contract killing. Boasting an IQ of 164, his lifelong dream was to be a soldier, a goal he ultimately failed to achieve. Therefore, he resolved to demonstrate his skills in the most savage way imaginable, a premeditated triple homicide designed to eliminate anyone who could testify. Stay tuned as a pair of investigators methodically dismantle his web of deception. See them present the DNA proof tying him to the scene of the crime, and watch the exact moment this self-professed genius understands he's been completely outmaneuvered. You are about to witness the questioning of a man who believed he had executed the perfect crime right up until he admitted to everything. What possessed him to murder 3 guiltless individuals? And how did the detectives extract his confession? So what made a 10-year-old boy become an important part of this story? Let's dive into the details right now. All right, so if we need to sketch anything, you can give us a hand with that sort of thing. You know this family better than anyone, correct? I can certainly try my best, although I'm not sure I know them better than everyone else. You definitely know them better than me, though. Well, maybe so, you never know, right? Yeah, we've spoken with a whole lot of folks, you know, when we interviewed Tam, who apparently got arrested for something like criminal trespass. She was just going off, which I guess is just her way. Then I spoke to Tanya, and I had no idea she had a twin until this hilarious thing happened. I'm heading over there, telling my partner to go ask Tanya something, and as I look up, she's walking right toward me. I say, "Hey, how's it going?" And she replies, "Hi, I'm Tanya, the twin sister." And I was just floored because I didn't even know there was a twin, so that was quite funny. Anyway, we started chatting with her, and wow, she's really something else, you know? Oh, definitely. She mentioned that she thinks you're quite handsome. Just so, you know, I am aware. Oh, is that right? She truly does. She's exactly the same as when I was a kid. I recall what she was like from my childhood, and she hasn't changed one bit, really. Super feisty and very, typically full of energy, you know? Yeah, she was going a mile a minute, for sure. She did mention to me that she's either a current or recovering alcoholic. I'm not one myself, and I haven't had a drink in quite some time. And she was really going on, right? But I said, well, what did she say about me? This was before we met. You see, oh, he's just beautiful, simply gorgeous. I've got this pimple right here. Oh, looks like I popped it. What's that? Right, and here I am trying to get hired. Yeah, for real. That's always a good time, you know, getting a huge one. I'm still dealing with breakouts. Yeah, exactly, yep. Well, you know how it is. It's always the way. Like when you have one, you think it's absolutely enormous, but it really isn't. You just perceive it that way. So it's funny, you know. And I'll tell you what, guys like you make me feel ancient. I've been in this criminal division for 20 years, and you're only 20 yourself. I hope you don't mind me asking how long you've been on this. I certainly hope I didn't get them confused. We'll find out. Yeah, you'll see soon enough. Where's your drink? Oh, no. If I have one of those, I'll be running to the restroom in 2 minutes flat. Yeah? No, this one's perfect. It might be to offset the sugar. So this is my best bet. Yeah. I probably should have given you a heads up about it. That particular machine runs really hot. Yeah, you can change the temperature setting on it, but someone's got it turned all the way up. Okay, so he is Dale Keegan, and you are Adam Stoutmeyer. Is that right? Adam Stoutmeyer, yes. You're from New Hampshire, then Kittery, yeah, which is basically New Hampshire. It's funny you mentioned that because I was actually born in the Portsmouth Hospital, so all right? Which means for the first couple days of my existence, I was technically from New Hampshire, yeah. I mentioned to one of the detectives I used to work with, he's retired now, that I always tell people I'm originally from Kittery just to mess with them. And I told him, you know the funny thing is, I was actually born in the hospital over in Portsmouth. He actually accused me saying, so you've lied to me this whole time. He tells me, you're not a mayor after 3 days, for goodness sake. Cut me a little slack, you know what I mean. So anyway, what do you think of the rough carpentry work? You know, all the framing and that kind of thing. I have to say I do like it. I gave a hand putting up the ridge pole and setting the rafters. Yeah, we did all that work, the sheathing and all the roofing. It was a massive piece of the roof, you know. It's really interesting to see it coming together now. It's going up. Mm-hmm. Have you ever heard of a man by the name of David Lee? He's celebrated for his work. Oh, really? He has built 26 of these homes. They're basically castles, but constructed out of oak and shingles. He fashions them by hand, and I think he tests their durability with a .45 caliber pistol. Are you serious? And they don't even go through, yeah. So it's a fortress then, yeah, from the very beginning of its construction. What sort of person do you imagine would do this? No, I really haven't thought about it. But I mean, cold. Somebody would have to be very cold. Somebody would have to be greedy, perhaps. I'm not sure. A person would have to be utterly heartless. You know, I never met his son Mariah's little brother, but who could do such a thing? Who could kill? Well, you just never know. I mean, the biggest mystery we can't figure out is the why. There's a reason for everything that happens, you know, and mistakes are made. That's exactly why even a computer has a delete key. You know, errors occur. You know, wrong place at the wrong time. Panic, self-defense, who really knows you're familiar with the Constitution and all that stuff, right? Very familiar with the Constitution and your rights and everything related to it. Do you realize that you're not under arrest? Yes, I realize that. If you decide you want to leave, you just tell me and you can go. All right. The only thing I ask is you don't be rude about it. Just inform me you want to leave now. All right. But one thing is to tell you the truth. I would be pretty shocked if I were under arrest. So would I. And I am here to cooperate fully. Well, that's correct. That's correct. But while I appreciate it, I know you understand your rights and all this stuff. One of the procedures that we are required to follow is to inform you of your rights. Okay. You could probably recite it much better than I can. Actually, I don't know that I could recite it word for word, right? But you do understand it, don't you? I am a law enforcement officer. We both are. I want to ask you some questions, but before I do, I need to explain your rights. Okay, let me just do this routine we do with everybody. Okay, it's just so you understand. Okay? You have the absolute right to remain silent. Do you understand that statement? What does that mean to you? It means I can plead the fifth, which is another way to describe that. It means I do not have to say anything to you if I don't want to. I can just keep my mouth closed. There you have it. You don't need to talk to me if you don't wish to. Right. Anything you say can or will be used against you inside a court of law. You understand that? What does that mean? It means anything I do or say here, if it's brought to court, can be used against me. I have a right to repeat. You have a right to repeat anything I say. You have the absolute right to the advice of a lawyer before any questioning, and to the presence of a lawyer here with you during questioning. Do you understand that? Basically, that just means if you want to talk to an attorney or anything like that, you should let me know. Do I need to talk to one? You know, I just want to talk to you about the families. You know, if you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be provided for you free of charge before any questioning if you so desire. Do you understand that? Yes, sir. Now, not many people can afford lawyers. Yeah, I can't either. But don't let that stop you. Okay, if you think you want to speak to one, you just let us know. If you decide to start answering questions now with or without an attorney present, you have the right to stop answering at any point in time. You can stop answering any time until you speak to a lawyer. Do you understand that? Okay. If you don't like how things are progressing here and say, you know, let me stop this and talk to a lawyer, we will stop for you, okay? You get that? Yes, sir. Okay. Now, having all of these rights I have just explained to you in mind, do you wish to answer questions at this time? Yes, sir. Good. It's just a formality. Right. So, where were we? He's my note taker here. I'm sorry. We were talking about what type of person would do that. Cold, greedy, heartless, and someone with just no love for life, no appreciation for things that grow. Yeah. And I mean, from what we know of Tolkien and Tolkien's writing, it seems like, you know, a little bit more about Tolkien. It's, you know, his main themes are hope and hopelessness and a love for things that grow. He was very much against the Industrial Revolution and stuff like that. Anything that took away from nature or diminished life. You said that The Hobbit is your favorite show. So what's the verdict when we catch this monster? What's his fate? I figure you'd do it by the book, read him his rights, and throw him in a cell, right? You think he deserves jail time? Of course. Yes, unless there's some kind of justification. You know, can you imagine any scenario where this would be understandable? A justification for this, seriously, can you come up with anything at all? Because I can't. We don't always grasp the why behind people's actions, and committing a horrible act doesn't automatically mean a life sentence. But seriously, can you think of a single compelling reason why something this awful would occur? Any legitimate excuse for this kind of behavior? No, I can't imagine any valid excuse for it whatsoever. Okay? The real root of my problems began when I proposed. That was the start of my downfall. Who was she, Cindy Courier? Courier ran off with my best friend. Just 2 weeks before we were supposed to get married. Was she a local girl? Wow, man. Yeah. Was she from around here? I was familiar with the Sharon area. Originally, she was from Guilford, Garland, near Cambridge. The name Courier is pretty common. I was just thinking that myself, yeah. Right? It's a very well-known name around here. Yeah. Well, speaking of her family, she has a couple of grandfathers. One of them owns a pharmacy over in Oakland, which was strange because I lived on that exact same street for a while, just a few doors down, yeah. It definitely made for some awkward situations, yeah. So when did you get engaged to her? Somehow I completely missed this whole chapter of your life. You certainly did, though. That's the gist of it for now. Yeah, it was back in 2009. So not too far back, we split up around last Thanksgiving, the one that just passed. The irony is that Thanksgiving was our favorite holiday for both of us, and it was also our half-year anniversary. We would have been together for 6 months on Thanksgiving Day, so it felt like a significant milestone. And you said that was the day she left you for your best friend. Is that right? Yep. That's terrible. Yeah. What's the friendship like between you and that guy these days? How's that whole situation? We're not on speaking terms. We just don't have anything to do with each other. It's probably for the best to just leave it alone. Yeah. Are they still together? And there are no hard feelings, really, because he and I had already been through so much before all this happened. What was the guy's name again? Michael Bush. His twin brother is actually campaigning for state representative in the Hancock district, and they're both Federalists. Their whole platform is about suppressing people. I've heard him admit it himself. So what can you even do? You know, it's tough, right? Who in your life would you say you admire the most? The person I admire most living or not? Yeah, either way, it doesn't make a difference. The one I have the most respect for is my uncle. Absolutely. I truly look up to my Uncle Steve. It sounds like he was the single greatest positive role model you've ever had in your life. And your mother's name is Maria. So Maria and Tamara were lifelong best friends, right? Is that what I recall? That's correct, but it had been years since I'd last seen Tamarin, okay? What was the reason for that? Well, I was gone for a few years and they had a falling out over my mother's girlfriend. And honestly, I don't hold it against her because my mother's wife, is completely obnoxious. She's bipolar, useless, and just plain malicious. Wow, just a genuinely unpleasant person. I mean, I really just don't get her at all. I can't figure out why she is the way she is. It's a mystery to me, and it always has been. You've never understood, so are you and your mom tight? Not at all. In fact, I feel like I don't know who she is anymore. It feels like over the past few years, it's as if the person I knew is no longer there. The lights are on, but nobody's home. Why is that what happened? Things had just gotten completely absurd by then. I had gotten myself a job, started working, found a girlfriend, and even lost my virginity. Oh, geez. I actually held out until I was 17. I was one of those kids, dead set on waiting until I was married, you know? Plus, I was a pretty regular churchgoer, yeah. So it happened at the beginning of your senior year, then you lost your virginity. That would be right, yeah. That time we saw you in New York, did that get under your skin? You seem agitated by it now, so did it bother you then? No. Not on that particular night, of course, but a couple of days later it did. I mean, in hindsight, there have been times I thought I probably shouldn't have done that, but that was all just playing around and making suggestions because it really doesn't matter, since what's done is done. Exactly. There's no changing it. I can't change it, and in a way I'm happy I did it because I learned so much more about who I am, Oh yeah, what did you learn? Well, that I'm pretty resilient, thanks to Uncle Steve and those high school years. That's right. Okay, so obviously things with your mom weren't going well between the ages of 12 and 17. You were living with Uncle Steve, all right. Did anything major happen at age 12 to make you want to leave and go to his place? Well, it was never my decision. It was a situation that involved DHHS or DHS, the Department of Health and Human Services. It stemmed from a case with violence, drinking, and all that other terrible stuff. Not to pry about that period in your life, but what exactly was the situation? Without getting too personal, was it physical harm, emotional cruelty, or did you feel it was both physical and mental on top of the misusing substances? They absolutely were, yeah. Was there any of that other stuff going on at the time? No, absolutely not. That's good because a lot of that happens these days. It's so sad. So you were right there in it. So fast forward to high school, you said you had 20 credits and could have graduated early, but chose not to. And I think I was just too headstrong, I guess. On a beautiful day, I'd be driving to class when the perfect song came on the radio, and I'd just head right down to the pier in Bar Harbor to watch the birds. Just to hang out. Yeah. And look at the birds. And look at the ships. I was just so exhausted from being there. And I wasn't a popular kid at all, and I've never really been that sociable to begin with. I mean, you preferred being by yourself rather than hanging out with all the jocks and that whole crowd. I got picked on quite a bit in school. Well, yeah. The thing was that I was made fun of not always directly, but by my classmates. And the problem is that the school system basically raises the students. At that point, the school is raising all these children, and what really happens is they're just being brought up by their peers. Kids develop in these social groups of their peers, which is very different from societies in the past, and it really has an effect. So where was I? Oh, right. Sitting on a deck in Bar Harbor. I was just sitting out on a deck in that atmosphere watching the birds, yeah. So I ditched a lot of school time and started meeting up with people, and that's when my whole party phase began. It pretty much started and ended when I was 17, to be honest. I met a guy named Dustin Oliver, and he was nothing but trouble. What happened was I let him move into my uncle's house. I brought him into my home, and he was more destitute than you can imagine. The homeless shelter had actually kicked him out, and I felt bad for him. I had just met him, and he seemed like a nice person. Right. And he was involved with substances, he was into drinking, and he had a thing for stealing from cars. That wasn't my kind of scene at all. Yeah. But we did some really foolish things. What's the most idiotic thing you've ever done? The most idiotic? Even if you didn't get caught? Let's hear it. Oh no. I got busted. And I always get busted. You always get found out. Oh yeah. Oh, I do. It is the most bizarre thing. Anything I ever attempt, someone is always watching, you know? Now with cameras everywhere, it's just like, why even attempt to do anything wrong? Yeah. Little did anyone suspect that this time would be no different. Someone needed a place to stay. Cameron needed shelter, and I guess she didn't like living at Jeff's. Your mother has a girlfriend at this point, right? The same one. The same. She gets along with this girl very well. Okay. Yeah. And for almost 10 years. Okay, so this is your mom's significant other. Is she malicious at this stage in the story? Has she always been this unpleasant? She's always had a bit of a nasty side. And it's the absolute worst kind of nasty because she can be so incredibly charming. She can fake being so wonderful, and then she'll just snap out of nowhere. It's a terrifying thing when you can't tell which version of a person you're dealing with, the saint or the sinner, you know. My ex-wife was exactly the same way. Our relationship wasn't terrible for the most part. We managed to stay on good terms. Looking back on this chapter of my life, things were mostly calm, except for that one particular night they hit the bottle. Every single time they chose to drink, it was a recipe for disaster. Alcohol is a vicious substance for them. They absolutely should not be drinking. Honestly, it's against the law for them to touch alcohol. They have kids they are legally responsible for, and that's a state-mandated order. Is that for real? Absolutely. I never made the call to the cops, though. I definitely should have, you know. Well, you just told yourself it was her mess to deal with. She is your mother after all, isn't she? And considering my father's deep distrust of law enforcement, you can see the tough spot I was in, right? He's your father. What choice do you have, right? Okay. So then Tamara re-enters the picture. So this was your first time seeing Tam in a long while. This was the first time I'd laid eyes on Tamara in years. It had to have been at least 7 years. Well, and how did things go between you and Tamara? It was good, yeah. We just fell back into being friends, you know? Just like old times, yeah. She treated me well, and I did the same for her. And, you know, Mariah was able to visit, and I finally got a chance to see her. She was around for about 2 weeks before returning to Matt, and we are talking about the period after April at this point, maybe April or May. You mentioned he arrived right around the time of your birthday. Mariah appeared maybe 2 days before my birthday. Or perhaps it was the day before and she ended up staying for a couple of weeks. So she gets settled in and you started to develop some feelings for her, didn't you? Yeah. You know, we spent some time together. Yeah, I liked her. Yeah. And was she pregnant at that time? Or was she pregnant at that moment? I really don't believe so. I was fairly certain she was on birth control. And like I mentioned, she already had a baby. Yep, she had the child already. And I completely fell for the baby, of course. Babies are adorable. They really are cute, yeah. So you've got this connection with Mariah, but did she have a boyfriend living with her or some other guy around at the time? She was involved with Matt. She would wake up next to him, spend maybe a day with me, and then run right back to him. That was the pattern, plain and simple. She was just bouncing between us because she was so immature. She was completely immature and far too young. She had just given birth, so her hormones were all over the place, right? It's a situation you can't really control. Yeah. She was messing with your head a bit too. I'm positive she was playing games with the other guy as well, you know? Yeah. How exactly was she playing you? Well, she essentially seduced me. Yeah. I had no intention of chasing her like that, you know? It was definitely a case of her making the moves on me, not the other way around. You mentioned before that it was just a single night. Just one night. And, well, how can I put this? Was it any good? I mean, it happened in the shower. It was incredibly brief, and I didn't even finish. So you could argue that you never truly had sex. Was this a major thing for you, though? Were you thinking, this is my girlfriend now? I mean, for whatever reason, we just never put a label on anything. That kind of conversation never even came up. Everything was just calm and easy, and we were happy just being around one another. We would go out for walks, and even runs. And then that incident occurred. Did she ever try to act like you two were officially dating? Did she pull that kind of move on you? No. But what felt like a simple connection was about to be thrown into the heart of a terrifying investigation. So I wound up crashing at Bob and Joyce's place, just waiting for the others to show up there. Right. Tamara, however, wasn't staying there. Tamara was constantly heading back down to Addison. She might come up for a day or two, then go back down, then come back up, and then leave again. Tam was always bouncing around like that. So who was actually living at Bob and Joyce's? It was just the three of us with Tamara popping in and out. And both Tamara and Elwood were coming and going constantly. Mariah didn't visit at all during my stay this time. Now let's get to how you first met Jeff. He showed up at Bob and Joyce's house. Okay. Can you recall when that happened? It was soon after I first arrived, maybe a couple of days after I'd gotten there. Okay. Craig and his girlfriend were also present at that specific time. Correct. You mentioned previously that you went up there, stayed for a few weeks, and then returned home. Are you saying Jeff met you during that initial trip? No, absolutely not. I never met him then. I actually met him on the later trip when I had moved up there to live for a while. Right, and he showed up a couple of days after my arrival. Okay, so walk me through that initial meeting. How did it unfold? There wasn't much of a conversation to speak of. He came in, spoke with Bob and Joy, and they introduced me since I was right there. They just said, "Oh, right, this is Street," and the little boy wasn't with him then. No, he wasn't. He was with his mother at the time. Jeff ended up leaving after maybe half an hour. So Jeff leaves, yes, Jeff leaves, and you remained at the house. I'm still a bit fuzzy on the timeline of when you went, because you previously stated you asked him to help you find a job and all that. I did inquire about employment, yes? I asked if he could help me find some work, and I returned that day specifically to see if he'd heard anything about a job for me. I see, and at some point you went back again, and that's when he informed you he was struggling to find you a position. I'm having a tough time finding you work. That's what he said when you went there. He didn't have any leads or know of anything available, no. Was that your second visit, or your third when you returned? All right, let me try to sort this out. Because you stated before that you asked him for a job, and then during our last interview, you confirmed you asked if he knew of any openings. In our last conversation, you told me that you went up to see him. He couldn't find any work for you. You had a beer and all that. So tell me about that specific visit. Okay, so I go up to see him. How long was this after your very first meeting with him? It was about a week later, roughly a week. Okay, so what was happening when you got there a week later? It was just Jeff by himself drinking a beer and mowing his lawn. He was outside, yes? And what was his mood like? Jeff was doing fine, yeah. Jeff was talking about his son and saying he was expected back soon, so his son wasn't there at that time. So this all occurred about a week before the incident, since you said you only lived there for 3 weeks, right? Yeah, it's all within a very compressed time frame, isn't it? So you were there, you met him, and then a week later you go see him, which places you there, just a week before this entire situation unfolded. You were on that property. The detective's implication was as sharp as a blade. After detailing his first encounter with Jeff, Thane is now describing their second meeting, a conversation sure to invite scrutiny and breed deep suspicion. How did you get to his place? How did I get there? I walked. You walked the entire way. Yeah, it's not a long walk, and you didn't ride a bike. No, okay. So look, I'm a visual person if you don't mind. Could you sketch out the trailer for me and show me exactly where you went? Because the details of your movements are very important to me. Of course, here you go, the interior of the trailer. Yes, the whole layout. Okay, so here we have the kitchen bar, and there's the refrigerator where I got the beer from. This is the main door to the house. This is the porch, and over here is the main living area. How does this all connect? What is this part that looks like a treehouse? Where was I? I walked up the front lawn. He told me to come inside and grab a beer, and he has some chairs right here. We sat down right here for a bit. It was a hot day, so we eventually went back outside and sat over here. And that was all there was to it. He had already given you a tour of the place before this visit. Correct. You said he showed you his house. Yeah. This was before this particular visit. No, this was the visit he showed me. All right, so there were only at a minimum 2 visits. You said the very first time you met him, you went down and had a beer. Then I asked if this incident occurred on the second or third visit. And you confirmed it was the second visit. I'll be completely honest with you because there's no reason not to be. I appreciate your candor. I definitely have a bicycle I'm certain of that much. Is it a 10-speed? With the handlebars that curve down and around. No, you lied about the bike, didn't you? Let's talk about that right now. And I expect the truth this time. All right, look, I've only ever encountered Jeff on 2 separate occasions. Is that clear? One of those times was when he came down to my place, you know? But I've merged those 2 events in my head, right? Then about a week later, I show up again. Only this time, I'm on my bicycle. Yeah, this time I was on my bike. Sure, I pedaled it there, but I kept it on the main road, you understand? I rode up alongside the wall, right? And I left it parked somewhere right around there. You see, I went inside, we had a beer, and that was the time he gave me the full tour of the house. That's right, it was during that specific visit, which was the only trip I ever made to Jeff's house. Wait, no, you just told me he visited you first, then you visited him. You described it as the same event. You said the very first time you two met, you brought up getting a job, and he invited you over by saying, "Come on, Those were two entirely separate times. I just mashed them together to keep the story simple, you know? No, let's be clear about each time you were present. How many visits have you made to this house? Just one time. Once that's it, I've only ever been to that place a single time. I visited his home on one single occasion, and during that visit, he showed you. The whole place, is that correct? He gave me the tour, yes. This initial clash sets the stage for the entire confrontation, as the first questions and answers create a tension that promises an intense and revealing exchange. So you're saying you went to his house right after that very first meeting. You two had correct. I explained that already. It actually happened a week later. I just simplified things. But why would you do that? What possible reason could you have for confusing me like that? I didn't think it mattered because it's totally irrelevant to anything important. Well, with 3 people dead, I'd say every detail is far from irrelevant, wouldn't you? That fact alone makes every single thing you say extremely relevant, especially when we're dealing with someone who isn't being truthful. I get that, but I'm telling you, I wasn't involved in any of it, okay? Now that driveway leading into the property, tell me about going up that driveway. I was just out on my bike one day collecting bottles, and there wasn't anybody at the house. I went past the place, I actually rode by it twice, okay? So that's when you went up the driveway, right? Yeah, I rode past and then I turned in. How could you tell nobody was home? There were no cars there, okay? And when exactly was this bike ride, where you went up the driveway? I'm asking because we discovered bicycle tracks all the way up there, you see. Which explains why I'm so confused, because when I asked you about a bike the other day, you denied it. And you denied it again today. Why did you hide the fact you owned a bike from me when I already told you we found tire prints up there? Why would you lie about owning a bike? I'd heard some rumors about motorcycle gangs, and I didn't want to get mixed up in that. No, that's not what I asked you the other day, was it? A pedal bike, right? A bicycle, okay? Yes, I own a pedal bike. Exactly. But just the other day you told me you didn't have one, did you? So I'm simply trying to understand why you would conceal that information from me. That's the only question I have right now. It was because I just didn't feel like it. Fine. So let's go back to you being inside the house. It was only you and Jeff there because you've stated you've never met Jason, right? I have never once met Jason, no. Okay, but have you ever heard Jason's name mentioned? I've never met him, but Jason, yes, I've heard of him, sure. I know the name from Craig, actually. He's a friend of Craig's, you see. But like I said, I haven't seen Craig in years, and Craig was also there when I visited. Craig would talk about Jason, and so would other people. So how are you so sure he's a friend of Jason's specifically? I believe he's Craig's friend because I think I heard someone ask something like, well, who would have told you about that? And the answer was Craig. So Craig was the one who told you about this random guy named Jason. Well, me and Craig were driving to Halton one time, and we obviously passed by this area, right? Yes, we did, okay. Did he honk his horn at Jason's place or at Jeff's place? He honked at both, okay? So that means, where Jason lives then. I suppose he must have, yes. You literally just said he honked his horn as you passed the house. I believe so. I think that's where he lives. I just made an assumption when he honked the horn, and you probably asked him, who was that for? And then he'd say, that's my buddy Jason, because how else would his name even come up? I'm pretty sure he said, that's Jason's place right there, didn't he? Because this is confusing me now, since the other day you claimed you had no idea where Jason lived at all. You told me you knew absolutely nothing about Jason. So are you now trying to tell me I don't know anything about Jason? Do you or do you not know where he lives, I believe? I might know where his house is, yes. You just told me that Craig honked the horn at his house as you drove by. Those were your words. He honked at his friend's house, sure, but I had to ask someone else about it later. Craig never actually said, oh, that's my friend Jason's house. You're just fabricating this whole story now, aren't you? No, I'm genuinely trying to comprehend what you're saying. You're just running me around in circles at this point. Okay, my question is simple. Who mentioned Jason to you? Halton, because it always comes back to Halton. Who told me about Jason? I honestly can't recall who mentioned Jason. It might have been Bob or Joy or maybe Craig or Mariah. Here we see the first real crack in his composure where he was once assertive, and Quickfane now seems completely tongue-tied. The pressure is mounting as investigators confront him with contradictions about the bicycle and his entire narrative concerning Jason. The holes in Thane's version of events are becoming impossible to ignore. What's raising the detective's alarm is a critical piece of evidence, DNA from a beer bottle, and a cigarette butt at the scene is a perfect match to the sample Thane already provided. So you're saying you only rode your bike up that driveway just a single time? Just the one time, that's it? Then why are we discovering evidence of several trips up there, including another one through the woods, on a bike with footprints leading right out in front of Bobby's house? Can you explain why we're finding all of that? Are you getting confused about the details? Is it possible you've forgotten an occasion when you were up there with your bike and cut through the woods ending up in front of Bobby's house because we've traced your path and everything? I mean, did that slip your mind? It's all right if it did. I'm just trying to figure out where we stand. These kids came forward to help us out right in front of us. Did you forget about that part? No, absolutely not. That was just me going over to take a look at the junkyard. Where exactly is this junkyard located? It's located right next to Bob and Joyce's place just across the street. Well, I wouldn't know where it is because we've got canines and tracking dogs that followed a trail leading right over here. He mentioned it would have happened earlier, maybe Wednesday morning when someone traveled through the woods with a bike and so on. But here's the kicker, someone emerged right there directly across the street from Bob and Joy's home. Bob and Joy's place where somebody appeared. That's Bob and Joy's correct yes directly opposite their house. Someone emerged from the woods in that exact spot. And they were likely on a bicycle, which explains the tracks we found, though we do get a lot of cyclists passing through. Pedal bikes specifically. So that wasn't you approaching. No, that definitely wasn't me, okay? Now, when you were in those woods inside that house, you stated that you had been there. And I don't want to get confused because other cyclists are around. Confused, I see. That's precisely why I need you to tell me exactly what transpired, okay? You're inside that house. Look, I'm telling you that other cyclists were there. I get it, that's right. We've already spoken to a few of them. All right, now you claim you only had a single beer inside that house. Just one beer. And it was a Budweiser bottle, specifically a Budweiser. And you previously told me you finished the entire thing. Yes, okay. What happened next after you finished that beer? I already said I left it on the counter or in the sink. I can't remember which. You abandoned it on the counter or you put it in the sink. Which one was it? On the counter or in the sink? On the counter or in the sink, I see. I know you said that already, but is that what actually happened or not? Yes, it is, okay. Are you a smoker and did you have any cigarettes with you in the house? Smokes, I mean cigarettes. Cigarettes, right? Did you smoke any cigarettes while inside his house? Inside Jeff's house, I had one of his cigarettes and it was a hand-rolled one. Do you recall the brand? I have no idea about the tobacco type or what the filter was like. What kind of filter did it have? Was it a brown filter or a white one? I'm pretty sure it must have been brown. I see. If I informed you that it was actually white, would that mess with your memory? Yeah, probably. I'm not sure. Okay, you've stated repeatedly that you never met the little boy. I never met the little boy, no. Did he ever express a desire for you to meet him? He never said anything like, I can't wait for Jimmy to get here. I mean, he was telling me exactly that. While we were talking on the porch, he said, I'm hoping to go and pick him up. You know, I believe he'll be returning for the summer. That could be a good thing. And you have absolutely never returned to this area, correct? Do you even know what is back here? No. Look at the treehouse and all these trees over here. Have you ever set foot in this part of the property before? Absolutely not. I've never even gone near that treehouse. I walked by the swimming pool, sure, but did you ever toss horseshoes around this section? No. You recall the horseshoe pits were located just over here, don't you? I never even noticed them. You're saying you missed the horseshoe pits entirely? All right, because I saw the pool and spotted the treehouse and thought to myself, nice job. You had mentioned the wood he used to build it. Regarding the black lines Dale drew where you marked the kitchen when he gave you that tour of the house, did he actually take you inside it? Did he walk you through each room individually, or was it more like, did you step foot in here? Absolutely not. Then how could you possibly know a bathroom was located there? You're asking because I inquired you asked because I asked him for the restroom's location. That's right. So did you actually use it? I did not. Why didn't you? Because I didn't have the urge to relieve myself. So why inquire about the restroom's location just in case the need arose? Are you serious with me? Right now, you specifically asked for the bathroom. Look, I asked, and you told me the restroom is just down the corridor. But he said, okay, but where's the bathroom located? Are you telling me that after all this time with us, you've only spent 10 minutes with that guy? And you're saying, why would you possibly need to ask him within 10 minutes? Hey, where's the restroom? It's down the hall. You realize you've been in our company for more than a few hours at this point. And you haven't asked us once. Our discussions have gone all over the place, sure, but you're at his place for 10 minutes and you need to know where the restroom is. He gave you the location and you never went. I mean, that's just all right. So you've absolutely never set foot down that corridor. So there isn't a snowball's chance in hell we'd find any of your DNA anywhere in that part of the house. Yes, that's the story you're sticking to. That is precisely what I'm telling you, okay? And there's zero chance your DNA will turn up anywhere back there either. And you were smoking a cigarette. So what became of it? You finished it completely. You're claiming I finished it. I could have slipped the butt into my back pocket, or maybe I just tossed it away. Because you mentioned you're particular about not leaving your cigarette ends lying around. You told me exactly that in the vehicle just the other day, correct? But you definitely did smoke that cigarette, okay? And have you ever once wandered through the trees in this vicinity? Never. The only time I was ever here was a single trip on my bike, just passing through, right? So this incident where you were actually inside the trailer occurred roughly 1 week before the killing took place. It might have been 2, perhaps even 2 weeks prior. I never once met Jason. I've never laid eyes on Jason. Well, that's where we run into a major issue. How so? Okay, because inside that same trailer, we found a bottle just sitting out In fact, there were 3 of them. And what's more, on one of those very bottles from that trailer, we recovered your DNA and your fingerprints. So it's possible you're confused about how that occurred, but I need you to clear this up for me right now. Okay? Take a look at this photograph. I see it 3 bottles, correct. This particular one belongs to you. One of them belongs to Jason and another is Jeff's. I'm getting mixed up on whose is whose, okay? But this bottle is yours. Take note of how spotless the place is on the Monday, right before the homicide. There was a gathering here. They were even playing horseshoes. Guests were coming and going constantly. People tidied up after the get-together because I spoke with the individuals who cleaned and those bottles were absent Monday evening. Monday night, yes, and your bottle is sitting right there. Your prints are all over it. They're a perfect match for the ones I took from you the other day, and your DNA is inside that bottle. I need you to explain that to me, right now. It doesn't necessarily mean you're guilty of a crime. What I mean is I'm trying to figure out how it got there from 2 weeks back. I left my bottle either on the counter or in the sink. But surely you can see the issue. I'm having this specific bottle belongs to Jason, a man you claim to have never met, a man I myself have never met. The beverage is only half consumed, the beer is still half full, the bottle is not empty. I was certain I drank all of my beer, but that's impossible, even supposing you had finished it and the bottle was completely empty. Remember, they tidied the entire place following the party on Monday. Your bottle from that visit 2 weeks prior would have been cleared away. It would have been removed. That bottle absolutely would not still be sitting there still. Jason's bottle wouldn't be left out either, not with a 10-year-old child in the house. That kid is constantly moving about the place model. Let's discuss that beer bottle, the one you said you left after cleaning up the empties for recycling. Isn't that right? There is absolutely no way in hell that bottle was sitting in that house for 2 entire weeks. If we're being generous, it was there for a couple of hours, which creates a huge problem for us. I'm going to need you to explain to me precisely why that bottle was there hours before, or perhaps even at the very moment of the murder. So if there's a logical reason for this now, is the time to spit it out. All right? It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong, but we must know why your bottle places you in that house just hours before the killing. Just tell me how this all could have possibly happened, because I don't know. That's not it. That's not it at all. You know the answer? You just don't want to tell me, and it doesn't mean you killed him, all right? But this means we have to go one step at a time. How did that bottle get there? And is it possible you were there and simply don't remember? Hypothetically, you were there when this whole thing went down on Wednesday morning or late Tuesday night when you rode your bike over, had a beer with them, and Jason was present. Perhaps you're just terrified because you thought it was irrelevant that you just admit, yeah, I saw Jason that night, right here. But if you admit to meeting him on that specific night and he ends up dead, you're afraid we're going to think you did it. And that's not necessarily the case. But I have to be sure about what's going on here because I'm just relaying what the evidence technicians are telling me. That bottle belongs to Jason, and if you recall, Jason is the one you claimed you never met, and that one is Jeff's bottle. This one right here is your bottle, and all 3 bottles are only half full. Your fingerprint from your left index finger is all over that bottle, and your DNA is in the liquid inside, just like the other 2 people. So tell me all about how you were there on Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. Was it Tuesday night or was it Wednesday morning? Yep. Because Wednesday night is when we discovered the bodies, correct? So we know for a fact they were alive. On Tuesday night, they were on their cell phones talking, right? And we're pinging cell phones constantly. I can tell you about every single phone call that was ever made from Boba, Joyce, Tamron, and Mariah because that's just what we do. And we ping cell towers all the time. So even though the phone was turned off, we know that Tamara was downstate. Okay, we also know that phone calls were being made from this very location, Bob's house, right around the exact time of the homicide. Okay, we also know, and I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but as we're sitting here talking, we have detectives speaking with Big Bob up at AMD. That's Bob and Joy, okay? And Bob is telling us everything that he can remember, including telling us all about bringing you down here and so on. All right, but I need you to explain to me how that bottle got there, because he says you were there Wednesday morning. That's what Bob is saying. So tell me about that bottle. How did that bottle get up there when you said you weren't, you always get yourself caught, and every time you get into trouble, you say, hey, you've walked right into the police station and said, here I am, this is what happened, which shows me you are a man of integrity. You're a man, a very intelligent man at that, and with all the politics and everything else. You seem like the type of guy who's extremely straightforward, the kind who says it is what it is, and you were there just before the murder or when this accident took place. All right, tell me about it. How was your bottle there? Tell me how that bottle ended up at that scene. You have my DNA, okay, so you have my DNA in a bottle. Yes, we do. So can you explain how, tell me what you were doing while you were there? Well, I drank about half of a beer, right? So tell me about Jason because you met him and that's his bottle. That was his beer bottle, correct? So was that the only time you ever met him? To be perfectly honest, I just want the absolute truth completely straightforward. Straightforward during this specific event, okay? So what night or what day was that? It was Tuesday evening, so it was Tuesday evening, okay? Tell me what happened at the house that Tuesday evening. How did you get there? On my bicycle. Okay, and I assume those are your tracks leading right up the driveway. Where was Jeff when you arrived at the house he was inside? Okay? And what time of day was it? You said it was the evening, so was it dark out yet, or was it still light? It was not yet dark. Not dark yet, okay? And Jeff was inside. Was Jason also inside with him? He was inside. Jason was inside. A little boy was inside watching TV from the counter, and you're telling me you never even saw him, are you? The kid was in the back room playing Nintendo or some other video game. You see, you were totally unaware he was there when your friends first arrived, correct? So the three of you were just sitting around drinking beer, is that right? And only the four of you were there with the ATV. That's right, okay. So show me on this map where the truck, the car, and the four-wheeler were parked. We just need to be perfectly clear about this, okay? We recognize that as a truck, and we can see that as a car. I believe that must be the four-wheeler with the four wheels visible right there. Yep. Okay, all right then. Now you rode up here on a bicycle, so where exactly did you put your bike? I leaned it right up against the side of the car, right there, which is why that explains the long scratch along the door. Okay, so after that you went inside and sat at the bar with Jason while I took a seat at the table. I'm sorry, that's wrong. They were the ones sitting at the bar while I was at the table. The table's located here, and I was in this very chair, right here, okay? And they were sitting up at the bar. As you entered, did they say, "Hey, come on inside"? Or was life still good when you arrived? Were they glad to see you? Yes, they were. And I'm asking to confirm that. Okay, and they proceeded to offer you a beer. You then walked to the refrigerator to get yourself a beer because you had enjoyed one there before. You popped it open with a bottle opener after he said, "Grab yourself a beer." Then you stopped and sat down at the table. You're seated right here and you're enjoying a smoke at this moment. You did have a smoke, correct? Yes, I do smoke cigarettes, and you had at least 2 of them while you were there. That is correct. I was smoking Black Hawks that particular night, yeah? The brand that comes in the white package you seem to know more than I do, but I know everything. I know you know more, and soon you're going to figure out that I know that, you know that, I know the truth, right? Okay, just follow my logic here. It's a little game we're playing, but you are aware that I know. So you're having that smoke, and then something goes horribly wrong when Jeff steps outside, and we think it happened in this area. We went outdoors and walked over by the garden, and I smoked a joint down near the garden patch. I beg your pardons. And I shared a joint with Jason, so you two smoked a joint together, and Jeff didn't participate. And you're still completely unaware the boy is present at this time, okay? So you smoked a joint in this location. I shared a joint right there with Jason. Like I already stated, I asked Jeff about employment, and we discussed carpentry and various other topics, and he said he had some nails for me, which is why you have my fingerprints near the shed. He was trying to show me them. So where is the shed? Where are the sheds on this diagram, okay? He wanted to show you some nails that were out there. And is that the reason is that what you said there were nails out there? He offered to show you some nails. So when were you over there by the sheds? Was it that night, sometime between Tuesday evening and Wednesday morning on Tuesday? Yes, it was definitely Tuesday night, and I was home not long after that. Damn it. That is the gospel truth, and I know you want the entire story, but I'm going to have to plead the fifth. Okay, does that imply you wish to stop this conversation, or just for a little while? I think I'll go get myself another cup of coffee. Well, here you can take a cigarette break, and if you could bring me a joint, maybe I could help you, but we will get you some coffee. We'll allow you a bathroom break, and if you would like some food, we can certainly arrange for that to happen. I'm starving too, but I absolutely cannot get you a joint, as they really disapprove of that in here, you know? Okay, and I am also unable to get you a beer. Trust me, I don't want a beer though, I really do. I really do want a joint, yeah? And if I could possibly give you one, I absolutely would. So here's the deal. I'm going to make all of that happen for you, do you understand? You know that I am aware of the truth, and I want you to know they are serving a search warrant right now at Bob's and Joyce's. We've already taken full statements from both of them, which aren't consistent with your story up to this point, and we're also interviewing Bob Jr. downstairs. Right now, our team is turning his house upside down, and that's not fair to Bob Jr., is it? The kid had absolutely nothing to do with any of this. So you're just dragging him through the mud to make me feel guilty. Is that it? None of them had it coming, not a single one. But you did, didn't you? All I want is to finally understand the truth of what happened. You've always been known as a man with principles, and you know in your heart exactly what went down. We know what happened because the evidence screams it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting in this room with you again. This one event doesn't have to make you out to be a bad person, because something just went terribly, terribly wrong. The investigators had tried numerous tactics to wear down Thane's defenses, offering him food, coffee, and cigarettes while pushing witness statements and crime scene photos. They were now shifting to their most common strategies, suggesting it was all a terrible accident and insisting the family deserved to know what truly happened. There was an accident that night, and I think I have a few theories about what really occurred. But the family deserves the absolute truth, and you deserve it too, just to get this enormous weight off your shoulders, right? You're carrying a heavy load, aren't you? You see, I knew it, and that guilt will keep eating you up inside like a cancer. You're not the first man I've talked to who's done something like this, and I promise you it always eats them alive. And believe it or not, every single one of them told me that after they finally confessed, they felt immensely better, but I don't want a media circus. Neither do I, so we're going to keep this as quiet as humanly possible. I can't have my name splashed all over the paper. I don't know who signed off on what, but this always gets leaked to the news, right? We can contain this and keep it as quiet as we possibly can. I will tell you that much. I'll also point out that it's a holiday weekend and nobody even knows we're down here speaking with you. But the best way we can keep this situation calm is if we finally learn the truth, because I don't believe for a second you're a cold-blooded killer. You're not some monster who hurts people, you know? I don't think you woke up that morning and said, I think I'll go kill 3 people today. That just isn't you, is it? That's not who you are, is it? But the first major hurdle we have to get over is honesty. Honesty and the simple fact that you are responsible for their deaths is the very first step. I need to know why this happened, because the sheer curiosity is driving me crazy. Maybe you don't even know why it happened, but something went catastrophically wrong, and I'd like to understand what that was. The biggest hurdle we need to clear is your responsibility for this, because do you know what else is happening? The panic out there is absolutely horrendous. People are too scared to let their kids go outside, and this is summertime when children just want to go out and play. Everyone is terrified, thinking, my God, there's a killer on the loose with a gun. That's right, one of our guys knocked on a door and was greeted with a shotgun. That is the level of fear gripping the community, and it's why they are keeping their children locked indoors. Kids want to go run and play, but they don't dare. We have to let the public know we have the person responsible for this. You can let those kids go outside and play again, you can show you're sorry, and we can handle this entire situation in an organized fashion. Just release my name to the press and tell the public, okay, right, but let's take this one step at a time. You are responsible for this, aren't you? I won't answer that, okay? Why don't you go ahead and we'll take a cigarette break. We can talk some more after that, because it's all going to be okay. All right, you're doing the honorable thing here because you're a good man. You know, you're not a boy, you are a man. No, please don't call me that. You don't feel like you're a man. No, I haven't earned that right. Look, mistakes happen, and like my dad always said, that's exactly why they put erasers on pencils. It's why computers have a delete key. So look at this board right here. I'm giving you an eraser to wipe away some of the bad choices made that night. A train is leaving this town, and right now all we see are lies filling up the cars. So I am willing to tell you everything you could possibly want to know, but I'm sorry. Perhaps I really do need a lawyer, though. Okay, go ahead and have that smoke, and we'll come back in here to finish this up. Did he ever get you that coffee? As soon as he gets back, I'll go get you one. All right. Do you honestly even want a coffee, though? Yes, sir. Okay, I'll grab you one in just a minute as soon as he steps back into this room. This isn't the first time I've started crying, is it? Just let it all out, because that's a lot for anyone to absorb, buddy. It is a massive amount of information to process. I'm going to go get him his coffee now. Oh, good. I never knew I had such a gift for this. Well, what the hell? I suppose I'll take one too. All right. Hand that to me right now. You're right. I'm so sorry. I'll be as good as I can be. Yeah. D, I need you to understand that I'm in your corner as much as I possibly can be. I cannot guarantee you anything when it comes to the media. I can't make any promises on that front because it's far beyond my authority. But I will advocate for you and tell them about this conversation. I will definitely go to bat for you. What I mean is that I will stand up for you based on what you tell me and how much you're cooperating with us. I will not be doing any press releases myself because that's not something I handle unless my commander directs me to. I have no control over them whatsoever. I fully grasp what happens from here, but please understand there are people I simply cannot control, okay? That isn't my concern, and I know you can't promise me anything in return. I understand that perfectly, and of my own free will, I'm going to give you what you want. Okay, let me stop you. You just said you'll give me what I want freely. We have to read you your rights again. All right, I know how the system works. This means I'm under arrest now. No, you are not being arrested. You're not under arrest at all. I just have to read you your rights one more time. The only reason is that you previously said, maybe I should get a lawyer, or I think I'll plead the fifth. Remember that whole thing? But now that you've stated you're willing to speak with me, I want to be certain. I need to make sure I didn't somehow pressure you into this deal. I was genuinely afraid of that, to be honest. And you really scared me on the day you left. What were you so afraid of? I knew you were onto me, but I was afraid you were the bad cop who was going to beat a confession out of me. No, this is as intense as I ever get, but I told you that day, if you did it, I will catch you. Do you remember what I told you, huh? Do you recall what I said when you told me you didn't do it? I said, I know. Oh, that's right. This reveals the second clash between Thane's initial confident intellectual appearance and his current state, reduced to the tears of a little boy. As a law enforcement officer, I need to ask you some questions, but before that I must explain your legal rights. You have the absolute right to remain silent. Do you understand that fully, yes? You are under no obligation to speak to me if you do not wish to. Yes, sir. What went wrong? To be completely honest, everything was going just fine. I saw Jesse there. He was in the living room playing some video games when we were briefly introduced and had a beer. As I mentioned earlier, I believe we need to start with the why, even though I know you want all the gritty details. The why is very good to know. I mean, you're talking about Jeff Ryan. Jeff Ryan, yeah. And I never even got to the other one, Alvin Silsby, who I've never even met. Alvin Silsby. Yes, sir, okay. And he likely has zero connection to this case or the current situation, right? But back then, there were 3 top drug dealers. I won't name one of them, but the other 2 were Alvin and Jeff Ryan. And you wanted to cleanse the world of them. Yes. It's just like your Facebook says you're going to rise. Like what's that favorite movie of yours? The Boondock Saints. Oh, you're referring to my Facebook photos, the one that says rise from the ashes like a phoenix. No, that post is just about me starting my life over. Nothing on my Facebook has any connection to this situation. So you hated Jeff because he was a drug dealer, and for all the things he did to other people. Is that right? Okay. We now arrive at the final element, which is the motive. Thane asserts he killed Jeff unprovoked, simply because of Jeff's history as a dealer. There is, however, not a single piece of evidence to corroborate his story. I don't believe in drugs. They've been a huge part of my family's past with my mother, and it seems like everyone I know has been hurt by them. So when you arrived there, you said it's cancerous. Yes, drugs are absolutely a cancer. So you said that when you got there, everyone was in the kitchen area and the little boy was playing Nintendo or something else. It might have been a computer, whatever he was doing there on the television. You mentioned that you were all just introduced to one another in passing. Is that correct? Yeah? We were introduced, we talked, then we went outside to smoke, and Jeff was being unusually nice to me. He was unusually kind, His kindness toward me was what made it so bizarre, wouldn't you say? But I definitely held a grudge against him, you understand. You did, I did. When did things take a turn from being perfectly normal to something else? Did he say something to provoke you? Was it something he said? I know. Absolutely not. Did he even need to? Of course not. So where did you find him? Where did you discover my prints, my own flesh and blood in the shed where he was looking at some nails with me? So he was just outside to show you a few nails or something similar, right? And then he leaned down to grab those nails for you. What occurred in that moment? I have a strong feeling you already know what occurred. I prefer to hear it directly from you. I've got my own suspicions, but I want to hear your version of events. I'm aware of what took place. I want to see if you're capable of telling me the truth. If I can tell you what took place, Jerry. I took his life. You ended Jeff's life. And what method did you use with a knife? He turned his back on you. No, that's not quite right. He had his back completely to you. And you were standing behind him. I'm asking to confirm. Okay? So, where did the weapon come from? It was my own bayonet-style knife. It's a big one. A very large knife. And that's the one you're constantly sharpening, correct? That was your weapon of choice. You had it on you because you carry it everywhere you go. I figured you were aware of that much. Yeah. So I was certain that he was outside the house. Okay. He's located out by the shed while Jason is inside. Both Jason and the boy were inside the home. Correct. Yes. So Jason and Jesse were in the house. Jason took a seat right beside Jesse on the sofa, didn't he? And the two of you are outdoors and you're deciding that the moment has come. He didn't say a single thing to you. He was simply attempting to give me a hand. Okay. Even though Jeff was trying to help Thane murdered him anyway. As brutal as that sounds, he has yet to disclose the most horrifying details of this entire incident. Roughly how many times did you plunge the knife into him? What's your estimate? That's a question I simply don't have an answer for. Are we talking once or 100 times? I mean, it was numerous. It was several times. Okay, understood. Clearly it was more than just one time. Got it. So you stabbed him, and did he resist at all? He fought back for a moment, but I didn't want a long struggle. My goal was to make it as quick and efficient as I could. And sadly, while it wasn't a drawn-out process, it's nothing like what you see on television. The reality is completely different from what you might imagine. Yeah, and I barely watch any TV, and it's obvious I have the sense to realize it wouldn't be like a movie, right? So did he say anything to you after that first strike? He was confused, asking you, why would you be doing this? You know, the usual things. He asked you things like, what the hell? Why aren't you stopping? Oh my God. Words along those lines. Did you respond to him at all? No, I never uttered a single word. Nothing. So eventually he collapses. All right? What happens then? What is your very next move? Well, I knew in my head that I couldn't just abandon his body there with two people who had just seen me with him. And it's still broad daylight at this time, correct? Or is it getting late? Obviously premeditated. Murder is the legal term for this, isn't it? I'm not sure. Yes, it is. That's exactly what it is. You went over there with the intention of killing him, didn't you? Yes, that's what you did. Okay. All right then, how long beforehand were you actually planning to do this? It was actually a fairly recent idea. Had you been thinking about it for days, or was it weeks? I mean, when did this plan start to form? Perhaps for a few days. So you planned it over a couple of days. I contemplated it. Yes, I thought about it. I considered the idea. All right? So when the moment arrived that day as you were, I want to go back and explain something. Okay, go ahead. What my actual plan was, and what was your plan? My intention was to murder Jeff Ryan, yes, to steal his car, and also to eliminate Alvin Tsai, and to erase all witnesses and evidence. Right, regrettably, Jason was present. Fortunately, Jason and Jesse were on the scene, right? So after you kill him outdoors, do you conceal the body right away, or do you go deal with the other two first? I go inside. Okay. What takes place after that model? So you were covered in a significant amount of blood at that moment, okay? So then what's your next move from there? You went back up the stairs and into the house. By then I was just operating on instinct. You know, I was terrified, but I knew I had to complete the task I'd begun. Exactly in my head, this was just a job I had to do. It was essentially a contract killing to me. They were both sitting there on the sofa, and I went for Jason first. Jesse immediately bolted toward the rear of the home. All right, let's focus on Jesse for a moment. Was he also on the couch when you initially attacked him? I'm just trying to clarify. That's correct. You attacked him. Yes, and did he get up from the couch? He fled after I struck Jason since they were sitting right next to each other. Jesse made a run for the bedroom in the back of the house. I guess I just figured Jason was stunned or that he wasn't going to try to escape. Oh yeah, all of them were speaking. What were Jason's words exactly? Well, I can tell you what he said, sure. I mean, how specific do you want me to get with this? Give me every detail you remember. Just take me through it, step by step. Tell me what you need to hear. Take me through the memory. Yes. My guilt is already established, so I might as well tell you everything, right? I attacked Jason, and that's when Jesse bolted for the bedroom. So my focus turned to chasing Jesse, who was the faster of the two. He just kept saying he was terrified, but the families shouldn't have to hear those details. No, actually, we need to know everything. Jason wasn't incapacitated. He wasn't finished yet. He managed to get back up and bolted out the door. He sprinted down the road, and I pursued him the entire way, which is how he ended up in the ditch, okay? And yes, I moved him into the ditch because I couldn't just leave his body in the middle of the road. I'm sorry. What was that? You're saying you dragged him into the ditch yourself. That is correct. I understand. All right. And was he saying anything to you during his attempt to flee? He was completely confused because as far as he knew, we had only just met. There was absolutely no reason for it in his mind. It was the first time you'd ever seen him. It was genuinely the very first time we had ever met. Yes, and you're attacking him with a knife. So of course he was completely bewildered. And was there anything else you did to him beyond just the stabbing? I slit his throat. You slit his throat. How many times did you slice his throat? Maybe 2 or 3 times, I think 2 or 3 separate cuts, and it was clearly an act I had no prior experience with. And it was just, my God, what did you proceed to do after that? I think I circled the property. You know, I went around the rear of the house and then came back to the front. After that, I re-entered the residence, you see. I scanned the area to retrieve anything I might have dropped. I realized a bracelet had fallen off during the altercation. And you were able to locate it. I did find it, and I also recovered a hat that I had lost. I was aware of the beer bottle, and to be perfectly honest, I was convinced I had taken it with me. I really thought I tossed it into the back of my truck. And if you inspect the location where you recovered the vehicle, you'll probably find the bottle I believed was mine. So you grabbed Jesse's by accident. You see, that's what we couldn't figure out, how Jesse's bottle ended up being removed from the scene. You took his bottle by mistake, okay? Actually, I believe that particular bottle was already sitting in the bed of the truck. All right, I see. I then tossed my bicycle into the back of the pickup. I moved around the place and attempted to clean away any incriminating evidence I left behind. Yes. You cleaned the sink area, didn't you? I used that washcloth you discovered on the table to do it. Yes, that's right. I washed up a bit in the sink. I must have noticed something on me that needed cleaning. I did, yes. Now, where is Jesse during all of this? I apologize for backtracking, but you mentioned he had taken off running. You pursued him into the back of the house. He ran directly into his bedroom at the very rear. And that explains why I'm not sure where the bathroom is located. That's right. Yes. And that was the point when I inquired about the restroom. I specifically asked for the bathroom, and he told me where it was, not that it's important. Okay, so he heads to that back room. What ultimately happens too, was it Jason or Jesse? Jesse. Jesse was the one who fled to the back. Yes, okay, I have the name right now, the younger one. He makes a run for the bedroom while Jason gets outside of the trailer. Is that correct? And Jason sprints all the way to the end of the street, which is the location where you slit his throat. That's right. That's the location where I finally caught up with him. Do you then return to the trailer to deal with the younger boy, or is he already deceased at this point? All right, so you attack him on the sofa, and you've got Jason there on the couch as well. Jesse takes off running. So what was the fate of the younger boy? You claim you returned to the scene. Did you speak to the little boy? He only mentioned being terrified. He just kept repeating he was scared, okay? So how many times did you actually stab him? I'm just going by what the news said, which was 5. But you know how unreliable the media can be. I really don't know. You're not sure. So could it have been 5 times? That's definitely a possibility. Where exactly did you strike his body? It was from behind in the back. Do you recall the wolf boy pose? Yes, he was right there behind the door. Was he on his back, or was he face down? He was lying on his stomach. He was on his stomach, but propped up on his knees, you say? Yes, on his knees, and his hands were arranged somewhat like this. Investigators are trained to measure the level of a suspect's remorse. For Thane, that remorse was completely absent. His obsession with showcasing his intelligence would ironically be the very thing that sealed his fate in court. A piece of him was desperate to discuss it, viewing the act as something thrilling he was actually proud of. So you've only been inside the trailer one time at this juncture. How many total times were you inside? Maybe 3 or 4, I guess. I can't be sure. Did you believe he was already gone at that moment? I figured he wasn't leaving that house alive because that's when you mentioned slitting his throat at least once, maybe twice. I dragged him down into the ditch. So you moved him to the ditch before anything else. I pulled him down right into the ditch. I got him down there right into the ditch. I know I hit him once in the head, and that shot unnerved me. I was completely on edge, felt like I was going to vomit. So what happened with Jeff then? Did you just abandon him at that spot, or did you make an effort to hide him? He was left right where he fell over by the shed. They discovered him inside the chicken coop, positioned on his back and covered by something. I realize it's an unusual location. Did you have to drag him into that spot, or was he trying to escape your attack? He did try to get away and you followed, crawling on your knees. Okay, investigators noted a blue automobile hood at the scene. Did you reposition that hood at all? Perhaps placing it on top of him or against his body? A blue car hood was inside the chicken coop. And no, I didn't go back for Alvin. I couldn't bring myself to do that. I was too distraught, utterly spent, and just exhausted. I felt like I just didn't know what to do. While Thane wrestles with his emotions, he wasn't the only person implicated. Bob Sr., the father of another key figure, played a very important part in what happened next. Jeff Ryan's 1989 Ford F-150 truck, which had vanished from his property, was subsequently torched by Thane with Bob's assistance. This was a deliberate act to destroy evidence. Afterwards, Bob Sr. drove Thane to New Hampshire for a stay with his son Robert Stout II. So eventually you returned and enlisted Bob Sr.'s aid to set the truck ablaze. That's the account Bob is giving us, and he claims he saw you. He says he found you covered in blood, asked what in the world happened, and you confessed everything. I realize you don't want to involve him, but Bob has told us already. Okay, I understand. So why don't you tell us your side of that story? So did he actually drive you to TAS that evening? Was it Tuesday night? Or the morning of Wednesday when you initially saw Paul? Which night are we talking about here? It was after dark, right after you killed him. Did you confess to Bob at that moment? Or did you wait until the next day? I told him immediately after it happened. So you informed him moments after you committed the act, correct? He was stunned, absolutely shocked. What was his reaction? He was quiet. I only requested that he get me some coffee, and he warned me to stay clear of the house since I was bleeding. Right? Because Bobby details going down there to give you a hand with burning the truck. So you set the fire, but he was the one who drove you away from there afterward. Yes, he gave me a ride. Obviously, since I had driven the truck there, and my hair was singed from the fire. Actually, the fire flash nearly blew me up. It really did. It knocked me flat on my ass. Have you changed your hairstyle since that night? Yes, sir. I shaved it all off, and my face has already recovered. But there are no cuts on you now. You're saying you didn't injure your hands at all. Not a single scratch on me. I had a glove on this hand. You wore one on that hand for the truck. For the truck, right? But not when you stabbed them? No, absolutely not. You think this was all planned for days, just to kill Jeff? So what's the next step? What's our move now? What are you getting at? What is our course of action from here? What should we, the police, do now? You should probably start by arresting me. What's your plan then? What's been running through your head these last few days since our chat when I laid all this out for you? I told you I'd catch you, you said. I wouldn't. What was going on in your mind? What were your thoughts about that bottle? About the prints? About... You're dying to know what evidence we found, aren't you? I could sense that you knew. Yeah, and you could tell I knew. I was certain that you knew, yes, so why didn't you disappear? And from what you're saying, it's just not in my nature. Where would I have gone? What would I even be running from? We were actually placing wagers on the drive over about whether you'd still be here. We thought you would be, since where else could you go? Honestly, I assumed you wouldn't be. At least that's what I had pictured in my head. I thought to myself, sure, I could vanish out the back and live in the forest, but for how much time? For how long exactly? Now the investigators are about to engage in a tactical game, complimenting Thane on his competence and professionalism. Their admiration will appear completely genuine, but it's a calculated strategy to keep him talking and hopefully revealing more details. One of the main reasons I'm asking is because you were remarkably proficient at what you did. Where did you acquire these skills? That's exactly it. That's another piece of the puzzle we're trying to solve. Did you pick up these methods through military service, martial arts, television movies, online videos, or maybe video games? The technique you used for stabbing was incredibly efficient, all self-taught. Honestly, it was the very first time I'd ever actually stabbed a person. I've never even shot a deer, not once. I mean, I've field dressed a deer before, and I've skinned a skunk, but I've barely done any hunting at all. But it all came down to mental focus. I've explored subjects I shouldn't have, and learned things I was never supposed to know. So it seems you've studied a lot of literature concerning assassins. But let me circle back to my original question. Where did you master that particular stabbing method? I didn't explain it. So describe for me the technique you used to stab. Was there some specific detail to how you stabbed him? Not exactly overhand. It wasn't a simple in and out motion. Was there a significant action you performed during the thrust and withdrawal? I didn't make any attempt to twist it or anything like that. I wasn't trying to be fancy. I just focused on being swift because I needed it to be quick. Yeah, I didn't want them to. It was incredibly fast. It was highly calculated. That's what our people told us, right? What the forensics team reported was that it was fast, confident, calm, and very distinct. A stab, twist, pull-out motion. Every single one was almost military grade. They said the person responsible was either professionally trained, had practiced extensively, or was a military operative, an assassin, maybe even a Navy SEAL. So I suppose somewhere deep in my subconscious I have shaped myself into just that, an assassin with absolutely no practice and no formal training. Okay, have you ever practiced this in your imagination? Okay, have you ever read books on how to stab someone? No, not at all. Never. I have never once read any literature on how to stab. I've certainly heard bits and pieces from various people over time, but nothing quite like that. Okay, and the moment you did it, what were you feeling then? Was that after Jeff or after all three of them? Okay, let's focus on Jeff. As soon as you killed Jeff, what ran through your head? What did you feel? Was it a feeling of mission accomplished or something else? No, it was beyond the brink. All right, so you'd gone too far. And if I ever hoped to get away with it, the task wasn't complete. So I went in and I eliminated those other two people. After you killed them, how did you feel then, now that there were no more witnesses? Uncertain. I wasn't sure if I had left any fingerprints, since it was obvious I didn't wear any gloves. Were you trying to eliminate your trail? Because I wouldn't have killed those other two people if I wasn't trying to cover my tracks, you see. In hindsight, I never would have taken the truck, only I had this notion that I was going to go visit Alvin Silsby. By the time I made it to the dump, just after that truck blared its horn at me, my mind was just a complete mess. I was totally rattled. Do you honestly believe you made the right call? No, because that's why you went there. I have to cleanse society of these types of people, right? Do you feel like you accomplished that? Do you think you did the right thing? What's going through your head at this very moment? I'm not talking about your confession, but about how you actually feel inside. Jeff Ryan was just some kind of gamble, wasn't he? Does this all lead back to the way he impacted your life? Those other two individuals were entirely blameless. Honestly, I knew absolutely nothing about them. Let's get back to Jeff. Do you still believe you did the right thing? I'm really trying to understand your mindset. What are you feeling right now? Do you feel you were justified in killing Jeff? Well, I'm sitting here about to be sent to prison, so that's a tough question to answer. Do I believe the world is a better place without Jeff Ryan in it? Yeah, but I'm not totally sure. Only time will tell. Thane's reasoning for murdering a man trying to assist him, a person he barely knew, and a helpless child is so bizarre that investigators are dedicating extra resources to analyze his motives and his complete psychological profile. How do you feel? Well, a part of me is disappointed. I mean, I was caught, and that carries a lot of weight. Definitely, and I never would have done it if I'd known things would turn out this way. I could have, how are you treating me in here? You guys have been decent. Are you treating me okay? You've been decent with me, yes, thank you, and you realize you weren't obligated to speak with us, correct? Yes, I understand that. I could have just stayed silent. I could have demanded a lawyer. I didn't need to tell you anything. It's just really important to me that you're treating me fairly. You see, do you want something to eat? If you're anything like me, I'm instantly hungry now, too. I just had McDonald's. I have no clue what's available around here, but tell me if you're hungry, and we'll have someone bring food for you, okay? We've got granola bars or something for you. Killing people doesn't exactly work up an appetite, and you did the correct thing by telling us everything. Of all the people in the world involved with illicit substances, and there are some truly terrible people out there, why did you choose Jeff to kill? You said he was into that lifestyle. He's a terrible person. He deals with that stuff. It was about the substances he distributed and the things he did to other people. He was the reason Mariah ended up in foster care. He treated Craigie horribly. Just forcing him to stand in weird positions and then kicking him down. I've just heard some awful stories, so you clearly despised him. He was an animal like that. Weirdly enough, he would call him that. You said he was basically just an animal. He was a total animal, Jeff was, yes. And how are you so certain of that? That's what you're claiming, right? But there was never any question in my mind about it. And I still don't think there is any doubt in my mind that he wasn't exactly that. Yeah, but really Alvin was the intended target. Going after Alvin made a lot more sense. Alvin was still an active and dangerous dealer. And I'd heard plenty of horrible accounts about him too. Just stories about his character, about him shooting at people from across a lake. Different things like that. This whole thing is unbelievable. That's what everyone will say. I'm sorry. That's precisely what they are all going to say. This is unreal. In my head, the two of them were a team. Nothing remotely like this was ever expected. Right, okay. Not from Bob, not from anyone else involved but me. It was exclusively me I committed this act, and I will accept the consequences. Right, and you're one of the things I need to bring up, and there's really no better way to phrase it, is that Jason was found in a very peculiar state. Jason was the one you mentioned you slit his throat, and as I said before, it's quite remarkable how you did it in a very grim sort of way. Your technique was quite impressive. Unless you're suggesting there's some kind of program out there for people like myself where I could actually contribute something positive that doesn't really sound like a compliment. Well, I'm not saying it as a compliment, but what I'm being told is that the way it was executed, it seemed very, very professional. It seemed like a professional did it because I am a professional sort of person. I admire things like the German army and its general staff. And the reason their troops were so much more effective than any other countries wasn't that they were a warlike society. It was simply because they were a nation of professionals. Yes, they weren't these bloodthirsty warmongers at all. They were just professionals, even though they endorsed Hitler's policies. Look, you're a professional, right? I'm not trying to flatter you or anything, but I was attempting to handle this professionally too. That's right, and you did. Something about the body was also quite peculiar, specifically Jason's pants and his underwear. Was there anything unusual about them concerning his pants and underwear? I did reach for his trousers. Were they ever pulled down at all? I didn't do it. What about by him, and was his underwear positioned in a specific way? His trousers were quite snug, and something about his underwear was extremely distinctive. Is that so? Yes, and I'm curious if that was your doing or his doing, because I have no knowledge about his underwear. I believe his underwear was white. And how would you know it was white underwear? I suppose because the waistband was visible. You could just see the line? The top of it was showing, but was it exposed from the front or from behind? It was visible from both sides. From the front and back, yes. I believe his underwear was sticking out slightly, and I did seize him by his pants to drag him. You know, you haven't laid a hand on me, but I'm at the point where I'd beg you to just shoot me. I'm not kidding. See how well I'm holding it together, that inner voice of mine. It's gone. Why in the world would we shoot you? Son, let me tell you a hard truth. No gift is greater than freedom, and it is better than a life of enslavement. I am your slave now. At this moment, I'm a slave to the state of Maine or the federal government, depending on my final destination. And what are your feelings on that? Tell me what's running through your mind at this very moment. I would choose death honestly, rather than spend the rest of my days behind bars. It's quite clear that the families have a right to know what transpired. An apology is owed to them, even if it feels hollow. Yes, I was just going to ask what message we should deliver to the family. What would you have us say to them? What words do you want us to pass on to the little boy's mother? Tell her it had nothing to do with her, that my intention wasn't to cause her pain, and that I'm truly sorry. What words could you possibly offer her? Frankly, I have no idea, since I can't bring him back to life. You can't send me to hell, perhaps not, but you sent him there when you took her son's life. What do you want us to tell his mother? Or how about a message for Jason's wife and their 3 small children? He has 3 kids. You know. What? Their ages 1, 2, and 10 or thereabouts. Is there anything you want us to convey to those children besides this just being an experiment? To test your own proficiency. I'm only asking the question, I don't have an answer. But I will relay any message you give me. I'll say whatever you want. Tell them he faced his end with courage. That's the best comfort you can offer them. But did he really die bravely, or is this just you talking now? Not particularly. He did not meet his end with bravery. You said before that he spoke to you after he came out of the forest. You described him running, trying to escape from you. Jason, that was him. He came back out, correct? What were his words when he emerged from the trees? He was just confused, which is entirely understandable. And did you speak to him at all? No, I already told you. I remained silent. I understand, but try to recall the details for me. Did you apologize? No? But in my mind, yes. Right, but did you say it aloud? Vocally, no, and not to the boy either. You never spoke those words to him. All right, we need to go confer with our team and figure out the next steps. It's obvious that anyone with a bit of sense would have requested an attorney, though considering the evidence, it likely wouldn't have changed the outcome. I get it saying sorry isn't enough. No, I understand that, I really do, but you can at least put it out there. For Mariah, perhaps not directly to her, but a message concerning her. I'll miss her. That might be the wrong thing to say, though, I know. My curiosity is getting the better of me, and it's not that I feel entitled to know, but I'm just wondering what would have happened if you'd never been caught. If we hadn't apprehended you, would you have kept going? Do you believe you would have repeated this? Absolutely not. Would you have hunted down the next name on your hit list? Not a chance, at least. Not for the next 10 years, no. I was totally prepared to just accept my fate. You know, the best I could hope for. Right, I get it. Honestly, yes. Something positive could emerge from the ashes of where wickedness was wiped out. You may not view it that way, but it's entirely plausible these families might become tighter or more resilient than before. It's possible those kids are actually better off being raised without him. From what I gathered, he wasn't even their real dad, and was far from a decent person. Now about the kid, he was just a boy, way too young. But my information suggested he was already heading down the same path. So, yeah. Now here I stand, braced for a prison cell, but when it comes to me, I have a strong suspicion about what's next. I'll either perish behind bars, or I'll be handed a death sentence. It's the most favorable scenario I could imagine. I still possess a great deal of kindness within me, and could be a force for good. Whether it's tending a garden or something else, my passion for growing things remains. My dreams haven't died. What do you perceive when you look at me? I observe a bright young man with incredible potential in numerous fields, a complete and utter waste. Those other people will only exist in memory now, Shakespeare. You get a throne, a simple home, or a tomb. It's a setup. The cottage is really the tomb. There's only one real path. It's for the throne. My aspiration was to govern the state. Yeah, because I'm incredibly knowledgeable about how it runs. I understand precisely how to improve things, but that involves power and control. What I've learned about authority is that it is always seized at some point with a blade or a firearm, okay? I suppose we're prepared. Is there anything more? Take your coffee. You're being taken into custody for fleeing from the law. Understood, you will face 3 separate murder charges originating from the state of Maine. I see. Would it be possible for me to finish this cigarette? Never mind, it's all right. Okay, I understand. I wish you the best. May the Lord have pity on your spirit. Thane's focus on his own intelligence and his inability to express genuine regret points to narcissistic qualities where personal ego and approval matter more than anyone else's well-being. On June 7, 2012, Judge E. Allen Hunter handed Thane Ormsby a sentence of 3 back-to-back life imprisonments. He was also given 15 years for the arson, which would begin after his life sentences were served. Thane is going to perish in jail. He will never again feel the outside air. Robert Strauss Sr. The man who aided a murderer, rather than dialing for help, got 4 years and passed away in his cell. Yet no court ruling can ever erase the events of June 22, 2010. No stretch of time served can return the 10-year-old child who cowered behind his own bedroom door. No legal system can mend the scars inflicted on 3 families that were stripped of everything. Thane Ormsby set out to demonstrate his skill as a killer. Instead, he revealed a far darker truth, that wickedness needs no justification, only a chance to strike. And in a quiet corner of rural Maine, 3 families bear that weight for all time. If twisted cases like this one, where the mind of a killer is laid bare through questioning, and the facts dismantle deception, captivate, you make sure you press that subscribe button. We dissect the most riveting interrogations, we examine the exact methods investigators employ, and we pinpoint the precise instant a murderer knows the game is over. Subscribe. Behind many tragic crime stories lies a lesson that society cannot ignore. What happened in this story is not just about one violent moment, it is about the choices that slowly led people down a destructive path. When anger, jealousy, pride, or the desire to prove something take control, they can push ordinary people to make irreversible decisions. One of the most important lessons we can learn is the power of choices and influence. The people we spend time with, the way we deal with conflict, and how we manage our emotions can shape our future more than we realize. A single bad decision, especially when fueled by peer pressure or impulsive thinking, can destroy lives not only for the victim, but also for families, friends, and even the perpetrators themselves. This story reminds us that violence never solves problems. It only multiplies pain and regret. Real strength is shown through patience, self-control, and the courage to walk away from dangerous situations. Seeking help. Talking to someone we trust or choosing peace instead of revenge can prevent tragedies before they begin. In the end, every young person should remember this. Your future is built on the decisions you make today. Choose wisely. Choose compassion. Choose life over anger. Because one moment of control can save a lifetime of regret.